Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Racing Bros NASCAR Podcast, episode 27. We've done 27 of these. We're not planning on doing 27 more, so enjoy the last one. Totally kidding. Why would we stop before the best race of the season, Michigan? But first, we got to talk about the Indy Road Course mess, and I got to introduce my co-host, Brian. Brian, how you doing today?
Wish it was better, but how are you?
What happened today? You seem a little bad, a little sad. What in your
Oh,
personal life?
it's not anything about my personal life. It's all purely about Indy Road Course.
Oh, see, mine has been a little shitty today, cause so work was tiring, so yay work, and then so this is gonna be like a big complaint. Like, this is such a first world problem. I know it, but today I was fucking So I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with like girlfriend and stuff. Yeah, first apartment, whatever, small. We share this washer and dryer with our like other people. Like the 8 other units share one washer and dryer, so you know how that goes. But usually it's pretty good. Usually we can time out when people usually do their laundry. This one lady just decides whenever to do her laundry and literally leaves it in there for like hours that turn into days. She will just leave her clothes in the washer and dryer, like just sitting in there. And I don't know how you just do laundry and you're just like, I'm just gonna leave all my clothes sitting there. Like, how do you not like process that? Like, let's say if I did my clothes, like if she does her clothes on a Monday, like sometimes the clothes will still be on there on a Wednesday. It's like,
Oh,
what the hell do you wear? Like, I'm like, what the fuck? So I literally just like throw her clothes on the fucking table next to, because we have like a shelf where you can put your basket and like laundry detergent and stuff. I literally just put her clothes on there, and they're still like sitting there like 2 days later, just completely like still wet. Well, I mean, they're like drying out, but they're all like kind of shriveled up. I'm like, this is what this lady deserves. But anyway, besides that, we have to like, so we have like these laundry cards. They're like a credit card, and you put money on it, and then you put it in the machine, and it takes like $2 out or whatever to do your clothes and stuff. Well, the laundry machine, like, to put money in, you have to like walk up this giant fucking hill. It's like essentially a mountain to like the first building, and then put money in it, and then walk down this giant hill. It's so annoying. It's like, dude, why can't we just have like a filler machine in our like own like units, like right there? We could just put money in. Okay, easy. But that's too complicated. We gotta walk up this fucking huge hill. I feel like I'm climbing Everest every time. I'm like, I just want to like clean my clothes, and it's just like a daunting task every time. So super first world problems, I know, but it's just super annoying.
hey, it might have something to do with like protection, because somebody could break into that
Oh
and
well,
take the money out.
yeah. Our protection is that our door works half the time, so like it doesn't even lock out. So you could just walk in. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah. So we have the greatest protection over where I live. I'm not gonna say
Oh,
where
yeah.
I live. So I live under a bridge. Honestly, under a
Oh,
bridge has probably better protection. Because like, who wants to go under a bridge? You know.
right.
So that's already more protection than we have out here. But anyways, besides my first world problems, we're gonna talk about the problem that was Indy Road Course. Look at that segue. I'm just a genius. Just how that segue personally came about.
There
Anyways,
you
uh, we're gonna really go into Indy Road Course. So we know you guys don't really care about what happened the first and second stage. I mean, we can talk about Martin Truex pitting early. You guys don't really care. We will talk about Reddick. He won both stages, so him and Austin Dillon were both going for stage points because they're fighting for the last spot in the playoffs. So we saw the RCR strategy trying to get as much stage points as possible, then maximize finish, but couldn't really maximize it because there was a lot of problems at the end. So not a lot happened between stage 1 and 2, like normal stuff. Like some guys pitted because they had damage and such. The Brad Keselowski spin and hitting the wall, as it seems like every road course this year. So good job, Brad. Thanks for keeping us honest. Still spinning out to this day on a road course. But yeah, anyways, we're just going to fast forward to the final stage because none of that mattered. It seemed like it was going to be a Kyle Larson cruise away victory, and I was going to get, another win on the season, really pat my ego, pump it up. I was really going to brag on it that I picked Kyle Larson, the best driver that's been all season, that has the most wins. I chose him for a race and he just happened to win. So I was really going to pump it up because you know me. Yeah, the last stage. Where do we even begin? So,
That's a good question.
So Kyle Larson, I'm going to try to recreate this as best as I could. So Kyle Larson was cruising away to a victory. We had about 10 laps to go. There was debris on the racetrack, just one piece of debris. I'm like, okay, there is debris. It was caught kind of in the curb in turn, what was that, turn 4, turn 5? Turn 5 and 6, I think.
Yeah, turn 5 and 6. Yep.
There's a piece of debris. So I'm like, okay, we do have debris. That's fine. We'll get the debris off and call the caution. So I'm like, okay, we'll have a restart. They went down pit road. A couple guys stayed out. It was Hamlin, Benedetto, Kurt Busch. I think were the 3 that stayed out. And then Chase Elliott was changing tires on the right side. Then his jack dropped, so he lost some spots. But mostly the rest of guys came out where they pitted. So then we had Hamlin, Benedetto, Kurt Busch on the front row. Well, the first 3 spots. So we have a restart. They get going side by side, all together and stuff. Then we have, it looks like Martin Truex was kind of checking up for something that happened in front of him. Got hit from behind, spun around into the tire barrier. We're like, okay, if he gets going, maybe that won't be a caution. But as we saw on TV, there was explosion of debris. I mean, me and Brian later went frame by frame and literally counted how much debris we saw on screen. I think it was 4 or 5 huge pieces of debris.
And then a ton of small debris at that.
Yeah, so it was a ton of, it literally was an explosion of debris, metal flying everywhere. So I'm like, okay, we just had a caution for literally one piece of debris on the racetrack. I'm like, okay, we're gonna clean this up, get another restart, see how that goes. Race control's no, track's fine. So Truex started getting going. He started getting going. If he was still there, there should have been a caution because he was in a dangerous spot. But yeah, he was, he got going, so no caution for that. There should have been caution for the debris though. Anyways, we go back into turn 5 and 6. Hamlin, I think it wasn't Larson second, or was it Briscoe?
I believe they were 1 and 2, Larson and Hamlin, going into. Are you talking about when Hamlin took the lead?
Yeah, when it was Hamlin.
Yeah, so it was a restart, and Hamlin had the better line. Took the inside lane. You okay?
Yeah, I was literally dying.
So Denny took the inside lane, and he was getting close with Larson. So Larson went high as Kurt Busch was coming in, and then slowed down to get to the corner, and Kurt went in a little too hot and bumped him in the back, and that's what kind of made Larson pull back a little bit.
Yeah, it was I was talking about who's running. It was Hamlin, yeah, Briscoe, Larson. They went through the curb fine, the 6, and then William Byron hit it, and it's his like.
Oh, you're talking about that portion. I gotcha.
Yeah, and then the splitter went underneath the curb and kind of buckled. If you look back at it, you see his front just buckle. And I didn't really notice it because I was just kind of looking over on the other screen, and they're just racing, regular. And I just see William Byron spin out, then Kyle Busch spin out. Joey Logano goes flying in the tire. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
And
so that was the first 3 cars, you're right, were the only ones that went over it fine.
Yeah, and then everybody else
just got
literally
plastered.
Literally died. And I'm like, I thought there was like oil on the track for how fast they spun around. I'm like, because Dale Jr. screaming about oil. I'm like, is there oil on this? Like, where would they get oil from? Was it Truex? Was like, did he damage this car that bad? And I was like, kind of confused. And then we get like a close up of the curb, and it was literally ripped up. I'm like, the curb came up and destroyed at least 10 cars, I would say. Like fast cars. Byron was destroyed. Kyle Busch soldiered on, but he was pretty much done. Joey Logano was definitely done. I remember the 37 was back there. Whole bunch of cars was all destroyed because the curb came up. And about that, people are kind of blaming the track about that, which, I mean, I was pretty hot about it after the race, but I kind of cooled off and kind of did my thoughts on it. Why was that curb really there? With that turn?
Yeah, it's too short of a turn for them to be taking. It's an S you would expect in like IndyCar or a more nimble and easy to maneuver car.
Right. But like looking back, like if it was like meant to slow them down, it didn't at all.
Right.
Because it just, I mean, they're still going full speed, so they're just constricting literally the racing line of like, hey, you got to go single file here. So like we saw in those restarts, like they would be 2 and 3 wide, beating and banging, and then they're like, oh shit, we all got to go single file. And if they don't go single file, they're ramping off the curb or going in the grass. So looking back at it, that curb was pretty stupid to put there. If they're trying to like slow down the cars or whatever, because it didn't work. They're still going like full speed. We're just really constricting the racing line, and we got big, heavy stock cars, so we need, as much room as possible.
Right.
So we'll get into all like changes we would do to the track and stuff. But looking back in hindsight, I think that curb was pretty stupid. Also, like the layout was honestly pretty good except for that one part.
Yeah.
Like the layout was fine. It just like that stupid curb. It was, I mean, the whole race shouldn't dictate around one curb, and it really did. So looking back in hindsight, that curb was really stupid. But otherwise, going to the first restart, curb destroyed all the cars. So they cut off the curb. It was like a 45-minute red flag. And then cars that was clearly leaking oil or something, they let around the track. And that caused for like a beach of speedy dry to be put down. Literally a beach. Like, I'm like, are we at Daytona Beach? Because the fucking track was covered with speedy dry. Because they sent the cars around that was leaking oil and stuff, like the Rick Ware shit boxes around leaking oil. And they're like, oh, that's fine. So then we had to wait for that as well. That was pretty dumb. So it's already been pretty much an hour with this red flag, trying to take the curb out, trying to speedy dry the track. And then they just dumped speedy dry on there. I mean, it was literally like a beach. And it was so dusty and stuff. If I was a driver, I'd be pretty pissed with all that like speedy dry on there.
Yeah.
Because it kind of changes like the grip level of that track. You've been racing there. It just kind of changes how you drive that, to be honest. Because it's like less grip, So if you're not expecting it, maybe you spin out, cause a big one. Then second restart, they got rid of the curb, but they still left the ramp curb there. So next restart, going through, and then McDowell ramps off the curb, spins out, causes another big one, another red flag. I'm like, oh my god. So we had another red flag, clean up that mess. So now we're already 2 red flags deep. We're just trying to get this race over with. Thank God they didn't stop it, because I saw a lot of people tweeting that they should stop the race. If that's how the race ended, this race would literally get a 0. I'm not even joking, because that would be so stupid. I mean, we had no threat of darkness at all. You might as well finish the race with like 5 laps to go, even though how ridiculous it is. I mean, you got to finish the race. If we just ended it like that, that would be so dumb. Anyways, moving on. Then we had another restart, and it was Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin next to each other. Denny Hamlin kind of shoves Chase Briscoe onto the grass. Instead of like getting back on the racing surface immediately, he takes a hard left and drives, like, cuts the grass in half. And he's right side by side next to Denny Hamlin. So even I knew that was going to be a penalty. I'm like, okay, that's going to be a penalty right there. Chase Briscoe's going to have to do something, maybe a stop and go right here. Or he's going to have to pull off, stop, and then he can go, like, come to a full stop or whatever. Give those positions back. It was put on the broadcast that Chase Briscoe had a penalty. It was also talked in his other team channel. They got different channels, if you didn't know, on the radio. So sometimes, if they don't want to like distract the driver, they'll talk on like channel 2 or whatever. It'll just be the crew chief and the spotter, instead of like all talking on the same channel, kind of distracting the driver. They'll talk about like strategy or different shit that's happening. So it was on channel 2. We don't know if Chase Briscoe was on channel 2. So it's still a mystery. But it was talked about over his radio that he did have a penalty, but we're not sure if he heard it. So then he still thinks he's driving for the win. And 3 turns later, in, what is that, turn 10? Right before the start-finish line, he just turns Denny. I mean, he could have said that's not intentional, but, I mean, he lifted his rear tires off the turn and just kept driving through him. So he drove through Denny, spun him out. Maybe that's a little retaliation for, hey, you kind of pushed me on the grass, so kind of fuck you. Not sure. He could have said it's not. He said it's not intentional. He doesn't want to win that way, but it kind of looked different. Maybe it's a little like payback or retaliation. Hey, you kind of pushed me on the grass, so whatever, dude. And then, so Denny crashes. Chase Briscoe's in the lead now. But he has to serve a penalty. So he kind of misses the turn. And then he kind of goes through the access road. Maybe he thought that was his penalty or whatever. But then AJ Allmendinger's in third. So he is in first now. Trying to hold off Ryan Blaney for the win. And AJ Allmendinger wins at Indianapolis. No one really picked him, to be honest. Maybe in Xfinity. But we knew he would be good. But yeah, Kaulig Racing's first win in their inaugural season as a Cup Series team. They're just part-time right now. They have 2 charters for next year. But good job, Kaulig Racing. First win. Congratulations. I wish it's probably going to be overshadowed by the mess that was Indy Road Course, especially at the end. But good job, AJ Allmendinger. Good job, Kaulig Racing. Shout out to our Ohio natives. Matt Kaulig is Ohio native, so we are based out of Ohio. If you guys didn't know that, we probably mentioned it before. So kind of, I guess, hometown hero. But yeah, good job. First win. Wins at Indy. I know it's not the Oval, but it's still a win at Indy. Still got to kiss the yard of bricks.
I do want to touch on just one little thing that did happen during that race that I don't think you mentioned. So that night of the race, Zach and I were in a call. We were talking about it, everything that happened. We were going off, absolutely off about the curb because sure, at some point, it's 50-50. It could be the driver, it could be the curb. The curb not really meant to be there. We'll end up going over this here shortly. But the last instance with Denny and Chase Briscoe, Denny was actually riding perfectly fine into the first corner when they had their little incident. He ended up getting tapped in the back by, I'm pretty sure it was AJ Allmendinger. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was AJ Allmendinger. And which sent him into a wide turn. That's what ended up taking Chase Briscoe off into the grass initially. Then, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, kind of looking back at it, like on the replay and stuff, Allmendinger didn't hit Hamlin that hard. If he even tapped him.
No, he didn't. You're
So,
right.
I don't think
he
it
didn't
really
hit him hard.
I don't think it really even sent him. I think.
Well, okay, but I was just going off of like what Denny was saying and what we were looking at before. So you might be right.
I think he kind of did, like, tap him a little bit, but I don't think it pushed Hamlin wide. I mean, he did run Briscoe a little wide, but that's understandable. But I mean, I'm sorry if Briscoe did that to me, I would be beating him. Yeah. I would just punch him. Like, I have no words said, just punch him. If he did that, stuff to me. That's just, I mean, he shoved his rear tires off. I don't know. It's just like, I know there's bumping in NASCAR, of course, but he's literally picked those rear tires up that entire turn and just spun him out. I mean, he should have knew he had a penalty as well, and he just dumped him. So I guess you can say Hamlin's a bigger person than I am, because I would have just beat him. I would have just beat him senseless, to be honest. If fisticuffs out, we're going. I don't care who I have to get through to get to you. You're learning a lesson, rookie. I know, like, he's got respect and stuff in the garage, or Hamlin's like a bigger person than me because he took it way better than I would. There'd be no conversation had. It would just fisticuffs, throw down. I'm punching anyone. Who cares? That would have been me, because I would have been fucking hot. Let's just say that.
So I did just pull up the clip. You're right. Allmendinger didn't really hit him that hard. It did seem like a little tap. Partially going over the curb too. So I think that maybe Denny just took the first corner curb a little too hard, and that's what pushed him wide then. If it wasn't from getting tapped from behind and maybe just him choking. I mean, it could be bigger things, it could be smaller things.
Yeah. I think it was just more or less just racing hard. I probably would have did the same thing, push him out wide, to be honest. But yeah, Hamlin just got straight up dumped.
Yeah, definitely. There was no call for that at all. It looked at first like, okay, he's giving him a little bump, whatever. That's what they do. It's NASCAR.
There's rubbins racing, even in any race. Like, even F1, I mean, I know it's more rare. I mean, they still rub tires and stuff and maybe push them out a little bit wider. But NASCAR, I mean, you're going to hit fenders. You got fenders for a reason. Fucking use them.
Right.
But,
yeah, I still think that was uncalled for, and I agree with you. Denny's a huge, so much more of a bigger person than I would have been in that situation.
Yeah, especially if I haven't won all year, and that's my ticket right there.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, I know he's locked in, but like, I would have been hot, especially after that BS that we just went through with 2 red flags. Oh my God, I would have been so bad. To
be honest with you, I think he would have gone to Chase if Allmendinger didn't win that race, and it was somebody like I don't know. I would say Di Benedetto. Like if Di Benedetto was the one that won that race instead of AJ Allmendinger, and there was one less spot in the playoffs,
Well, I mean,
I'm sure Denny would have gone
no,
after him.
he was already locked in to be. He was already locked in. So, I mean, the other, 3 people could have won, and Hamlin would have been fine. So.
Okay. Just
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's
very crazy ending to the race, to say the least.
yeah. So, real talk about this race. It was honestly a pretty solid race. It was fine. I mean, it was decent. I've talked to Brian about this before. I mean, it was a fine race. It probably would have scored around Road America, probably like 60, 65. I think that's like a good race on our rankings and stuff. It would have it was a fine race. There's some action. It was pretty good. Just it looked like Kyle Larson was gonna win. I'm like, okay, par for the course. But yeah, and then that last 10 laps happened. So whoever you want to blame, I blame NASCAR for not putting that debris caution out. You can't blame on it because that's ridiculous. I mean, you've literally had 2 debris cautions before for one piece of debris, and then with 6 laps to go, you just want the craziest result, and you have debris flying everywhere. Literally a car going off the track to a tire barrier. I know he kept going, but if he would have sat there and they would have went around again, would you not throw in the caution? Like, what if Truex was sitting there and the curb came up and everyone started crashing, Like someone,
horrible.
Yeah, what if he's like just sitting there like, oh, the car's dead, I can't move. And then he just gets slammed. So, like, what's the precedent for that? So, race control dropped the ball again, just like Coda when it was raining, and they should have called it before, and then they just let him go again. So, I do blame race control for Coda incident. And then New Hampshire, I mean, it was raining, and then 3 people crashed in the wall. So, this is the 3rd time race control has absolutely blown a call. And I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. It's fucking ridiculous now. It's just, how can you blow so many calls? I know it's like in the moment, like how can you call that? But I mean, you called it the other 2 times before for one piece of debris. You called a caution immediately. There's literally tens of pieces of debris all over the track. Big, huge pieces of debris that we've seen on TV hit the racetrack. Like, just call the debris caution. We've been like, okay, another restart. We're like, there's debris on the track. They've been calling it all race. But, of course, it's NASCAR, so they're not consistent whatsoever. And then cause a bigger mess. And then, with the curbing situation, I think that's more of a track problem. Putting the curb there. But also, drivers got to know, if you hit this curb, your car's going to get messed up. So I think
I agree with you on that curb part, but when we got to that hump that was there and McDowell went over that, I feel like that was more McDowell's fault than the track.
It's just
because, well, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like they're on a restart. They're just like, oh, we got to get every position, but all day that you couldn't run too wide there. So I just don't know.
Well, you got to think. Okay, they just pulled this curb out for a reason. Why would you go back to that same spot where there is something else that can send your car flying and potentially take you out of the race? I don't know. I think that's just a big driver error.
I won't comment on that because I'm not a race car driver. I've never been in a situation like that with like 5 laps to go. You're just cutting it as close as possible to this curve. Like, you have a chance to possibly get a good finish or win. I've never been in that situation, so I don't know how I would react to that. Maybe I would, go too wide, even though I know I'm not supposed to. So I don't really know how I would react in that scenario. So I can't really name it, to be honest. Because I've never had that mindset, because I've never been a race car driver, so I don't know. But it It was a fine race until the last, like, 7 laps. So, this race probably would have scored, like, a 60, 65. It was going. Like, good race. In my book, with all the mess that happened, I mean, it drops at 20 points at least. I mean, at the end, it looked like a huge joke, you know, with the speedy dry, sending the cars with literally leaking oil all over the track, around the track. The curbing situation, the 15 cars just messed up because of the curb coming up. I mean, I got to drop at 20 points. That was a little ridiculous right there. So I'm giving it a 40. It's below average race, probably the worst race of the season. 95% of it was fine. Pretty decent race. Just the last 7 laps was utterly ridiculous. It was chaos.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was, I don't know. I don't want to, kick a dead horse or anything like that. We've went over it. We have a question that's gonna be kind of going over it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I at first had a pretty good time watching this race. We had a couple problems. There were good racing bits. There were decent racing bits. It all came together to be, maybe this would be a good race. One of the best road courses of the year, but not the best because we had a better one. But I ended up going with a 40. I just couldn't do anything better, honestly.
Yeah, it's just below average. I'm sorry. It just makes this look like a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what they're shooting for, I guess they nailed it. So.
And you got to think about something this way, right? If this was somebody's first time watching this racing scene, like maybe they were into something else before and they came to Cup Series and they're like, hey, Cup Series may be the way to go. Let's see. And then you come in and you watch that. Well, what is that going to say about you? That's not going to be good.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have sat through all of that if this was my first time ever seeing a NASCAR race.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 40 I think it's fair.
I guess one positive from it is more entertaining than the oval would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
But then again, if you want to go back to next year, you know what? I'll save it. I'll save that part.
Yeah, I was gonna say I guess it was more entertaining because we would have got probably a boring race with the oval. So I guess this was the least entertaining, chaotic mess. I guess if you want this rather than the oval non-passing package that we have with this car and track. There you go, I guess. But yeah, it's just I think below average is poor race. But yeah, now we move on to our questions. What was the biggest problem this weekend for the chaos? Drivers, race control, or curbing? I guess you can kind of blame it all on 3. Race control and the curbing, in terms specifically 5 and 6. That was probably the biggest problem this weekend. Drivers take some blame, but I don't put a huge blame on them. I mean, they got to know about the curbing and stuff. Like, our cars will get destroyed with them hitting the curb. But yeah, just race control really blew it at the end. The curbing was a problem all weekend, so maybe more on the curbing and then second race control. Drivers have a little bit of blame, but majority is curbing and then race control.
You know what I will say on behalf of the drivers is this didn't happen in Xfinity. There was that one issue. The car went flying. Yeah. Another one went far off track. But they didn't rip up the curb and destroy all of the cars.
I think it was just mostly because they didn't replace that curb after Xfinity. I think it's just the abuse that it took all weekend. It kind of came up. So, but I mean, it was also weird because I've never I've literally never seen that happen.
Yeah, you would never dream of anything like that happening.
I mean, I've seen the racetrack like break or stuff like that. Like Atlanta this year, there's a big pothole. I mean, I've seen a chunk of the track come up. I've literally never seen a curb come up and destroy like 15 cars. I mean, it's a little hilarious to be honest. Fucking the piece of the curb just comes up and destroys. Like, I thought there was oil on the track, honestly, and then I look up and the curb's destroyed. I'm like, what the hell happened? It's one of those moments, it's like, Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you. It just... all three can take some blame. Your next question will tie into what I want to say about the curbing and then race control, as we've seen the entire year. It's just like sometimes consistent, sometimes very, very inconsistent.
I say, honestly, race control this year has been really poor.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, just the COTA mess put drivers in a dangerous scenario. And then I know like the curb ultimately caused a caution, but race control could have stopped that from even happening. They could have like got all the debris up, and maybe they would have saw the curb was coming up. Hey, we better fix that or something. They could have seen that, or like send a warning out to the drivers. Hey, this curb's coming up. Be aware when you kind of get on it. We don't know how long this is gonna last. But
there was that one point where they did go out there and start grinding it down, and I do think that kind of made it worse.
It's just
because that's when they really started having issues with it peeling.
It's just with because our cars are. This is the reason why it wasn't really that big of Xfinity. Xfinity has a ride height rule where the cars have to be so high off the ground, so then they have more wiggle room to hit the curb and stuff like that. But with these cars, they're planted on the ground, and when they hit that curb, the splitter just gets underneath that curb and pries it up. So every time they hit the curb, it's a fucking pry bar, and 75 straight laps of getting hit like that. I guess we should have seen it coming.
That right there makes sense.
Yeah. So just I guess unless you want to proceed on with your answer.
No. I would say we go to question 2, and I could touch on the part about the curving that I wanted to say.
All right. Question 2: if you run this race back next year, what things would you change for the better? I would explore, because we looked at different configurations we could run. I would explore running the MotoGP layout. It's kind of reverse, like instead of going the opposite way on the oval, we would go the normal way on the oval and then kind of backwards. I think that could be interesting, because then it's kind of the usual kind of looking on the oval, and then plus they pit how they would normally do if they were pitting on the oval. And then I think that section, like if they got rid of the curbing, it could be pretty fast. So I could maybe look into MotoGP configuration, but if we're going to keep this configuration, which, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just that turn 5 and 6 curbing, I think just get rid of it. Just make it as wide as possible. If they want to go in the grass, let them go in the grass. If they want to go 4 wide, go ahead. Because it's right there, it's just like, it's like a tube. Like they're trying to put like 5 cars into a fucking straw, like a straw hole. Like it's just stupid. So I think we should make the racing surface as wide as possible. I mean, if they were trying to slow down the cars in that section, they weren't slowing down. They're full speed. So I would try the configuration of the MotoGP, or just get rid of the 5 and 6 curbing.
All right. So now we know that we're going to next gen next year. So MotoGP might be possible. It is a more, obviously it's going to be a more endurance race on these drivers specifically, because it's going to be a lot more force turning.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure that these are still going to be somewhat tight corners, but it's, like you said, it's going to be a little bit more opened up in a way. So here's what I wanted to say about the curbing for next year. Right, if we did 5 and 6, if you were going to leave that in there, if you were to put it out more wide, that would just ruin the corner completely. You might as well just make it a straight shot at that point.
Yeah.
So if you were to get rid of it, try and adapt on how you would. Like, okay, we're not going to make it an S. We're just going to make it a little section where you hardly have to turn left while you're full throttle. It's kind of hard with the MotoGP layout. This is going to be something that they have to do when they have testing. It's going to be like, okay, well, next-gen cars. Every team's got their next-gen car. Let's go ahead and take this onto this track. Let's see how nimble, how open these cars are, and how we're able to take it on a road course. So, yeah, MotoGP is definitely an option. MotoGP may be the best option. If not MotoGP, that curb is just gonna ruin the cars. It's gonna cost you millions of dollars because you're gonna have to fix that whole car again. And I guess it just comes down to, if you don't find a way to fix it, what are we gonna do about Indy? I don't think you can take it off the schedule as a whole.
No, it's just like the presence of it makes just too much money, to be honest.
Right.
Especially with the current TV contracts, because the main reason we have the race at Indy is because the name and stuff. But
right. And
NBC,
it's iconic.
NBC wants like a NASCAR Indy race, so we're gonna be pretty much at Indy until that contract comes up, and then we'll see after. We'll probably still be on it, but I would look even into running the oval with these next-gen cars. Because, like,
it might make a completely different race.
Yeah, like, why even not try? We have no idea how this next-gen car is going to race on oval. I mean, would it be hurting to try to... Because, I mean, what was this race called? The Verizon 200 or whatever?
It was...
I think, yeah, Verizon...
Yeah. Oh, okay. I had something different, but...
I mean, whatever it's called, like, no one remembers. Yeah. I mean, they're going to remember the Indy Road Course. So they were like,
right.
Man, what a show that was. But,
yeah. Big Machine Vodka 400.
Oh. Really?
Yeah. At the Brickyard, powered by Florida Georgia Line.
I thought it was like... Hang on. Oh, yeah, I guess it was. Huh. Alright, but, yeah, just, I mean, they're not going to remember that name. I think they should just try and run maybe once try and run the oval. I mean, with the new cars and stuff. Probably bring some fans back to, like, watch the new cars at the oval. And the Brickyard 400 just has a traditional name and stuff. People know it as, like NASCAR comes to Indy. So, I think they can just see how it runs at the oval. Like, what do you got to lose,
Yeah, at this point, what do you have to lose? It's either you go back to this with next-gen cars and hope it's better, or you experiment with the next-gen cars and
I think
you have a better outcome.
I think it'll be better. I mean, these cars are supposed to race better with road course layouts. So I think it would be even a better race, but I would try the oval, to be honest. See how they race, because we have no idea how these cars are going to race on ovals, miles and a half, No one has any idea. So maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be the same or even worse. But doesn't hurt to try. And now we're going to talk about the news. This just came in. Beginning at Michigan, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski will switch spotters. Coleman Presley to spot for Logano and TJ Majors to spot for Keselowski. So I don't know if that means that maybe TJ Majors is going to follow Brad to Roush, because why would they make this change so late in the season? Especially if TJ Majors wasn't staying at Penske. Like, why would they make a change like that? Or unless he's staying with the 2 car, but we're not sure, so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to think. Like, maybe Coleman Presley's going to just spot for Logano next year. TJ will stay with the 2 car.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see on that. But, yeah, just a little bit of news this week. And then we're going to talk about Michigan. So, it's Michigan. I mean, it's going to be like a 1.5 groove racetrack. The interesting thing that I did find out is that, the resin they put on Nashville? Like, they didn't put the PJ one, they put the resin on.
Yeah.
They're going to do that for Michigan.
That might make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, it could. It doesn't hurt. Hurt. You can't hurt it any more than it's been hurt. So they're gonna put that on. Maybe we'll see the groove widen out a little bit. Up in the air right now. But we'll see how that turns out. So they're gonna put the resin on, maybe widen out the track a little bit, maybe like a groove and a half or so. But yeah, racing at Michigan. The draft is gonna be awfully important to try to make some moves. Gotta have a lot of speed as well. But Michigan. We're gonna kind of take off-ball picks. Little spoiler. I'm gonna take Tyler Reddick. He's been fast all year. The Chevys have been super fast, so he does have the Chevy power. And then maybe pull some strategy, tries to get a win to lock himself in the playoffs. So I'm gonna take Tyler Reddick to get his first win at Michigan.
Yep. So, I mean, he said it. I'm gonna take another Chevy fighting for a playoff position at that. Austin Dillon. I think this is going to be a huge race for these 2 drivers, because whoever gets the most points, I guess Tyler Reddick's mainly going for either a win or to get 2 times the amount of points as Austin Dillon to pretty much take him out of the race. Or Austin Dillon's going to go for a win or to really boost his points to get him into the playoffs above Tyler Reddick. So it's just going to be this. It's going to be a huge battle between these 2 cars, I would think. Even though you wouldn't. I don't know. That it's just going to be a huge battle to get into the playoffs. The one thing that would be weird is if one wins this race, one wins the next race, and then you have Kevin Harvick out of the playoffs.
Hey, it could happen.
It could happen, and that would be very, very weird. As for my dark horse,
I gotta pick a dark horse.
Okay.
I don't remember.
My dark horse is going to be Eric Jones.
There you go. My dark horse will be Bubba Wallace, because he has a pretty good track record at Michigan in lower series. So, maybe a pull strategy or something like that. Yeah. But kind of off-ball picks, closing on the season. Brian's pretty much got this championship locked up for our
regular
pick
season.
Yeah, well, for our picks and stuff.
Yeah.
But so that is another episode down. 27 down. And the next week is going to be Daytona, so it's going to be even more wild depending on who wins and what happens this race.
Right.
But thank you guys for watching. Thank you Instacart for also partnering with us. Didn't mention it last podcast, but thank you for partnering with us, Instacart. If you guys want to try Instacart, we got a link in the description. Just click on the link, give it a go. Makes your life easier. Who wants to go to the grocery store? You can pick all the grocery items you want on the app. Try out the app, see how it goes. help support our podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening this whole year. We're almost to the end of the regular season. So we've almost covered our first full regular season as a podcast. Couldn't do it with all our loyal listeners all over the world listening to us. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. You know how much fun this has been, even with the boring races or the shit shows that we've had. It's just been a fun year. So we'll do Michigan, and then we'll have one more race for the regular season to see who gets in the playoffs. And then we're going playoff racing, Brian.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. If you want to follow us, all social medias, Racing Bros Podcast, just look it up. And then our personal ones will be on there. And yeah, so thank you guys for listening to another episode, and we will see you next week.
Take care.